final 8 groups. And we see that all the people from Mexico pay attention to the football. It is just like they pay attention to the political election. We see that for the local time, on the 1st of July, we see that a highest level of participation has been recorded in Mexico, and about 90 million voters registered for the election. And there is a single round of election for plurality. And in this election, the leftist politician Obrador has won the election as the new president of Mexico. And for this program, we will start from a rather heavy issue because during the election, we have seen a lot of assassinations against politicians as well as political candidates. More than 170 politicians have been murdered, among which 48 are nominees from political parties. And for such a fact, it is astonishing for every country around the world this kind of violence. It is confusing, surprising, and perplexing. So today we have this program, and we invite Mr. Zhou for us to share with you our perspective concerning the elections in Mexico, as well as the violence in this country. And please follow us, and we will go around and introduce a real Mexico City. So why we choose the late time at night? We may say that at night maybe the safety will deteriorate, and I will show you the perspective on the main road of Mexico City. So we just go forward. And for Mexico, today, now we are at a rather prosperous area. On the street, you can see this is the street of reform. This is the most prosperous and safe street in Mexico. And we can see that in Mexico, and for this period, the current president paid a lot of attention to security and safety, and there is a National Committee for Security. And this committee is chaired by the Minister of Interior Affairs, and the current president and the cabinet have been working very hard to improve the social safety and social security. But the result is not that good due to the lack of sufficient measures. And we can see that the security in Mexico is currently deteriorating. And about the security, we want to add one thing. So when we introduce the guest speaker, Mr. Zhou has been lived in Mexico for 2+ decades, and I have a lot of understanding and witnessing in Mexico. For the 20 years, I have experienced 5 presidents. And we see that for Mexico, it is a developing country with 120 million population. But social security has always been an issue. Why? Because we say that we have various of reasons. And the most important reason is that for Mexico, it has drug organizations, drug laws. And this is a disease, actually it's a very important problem for Mexico. It is closely related to the U.S. U.S. is a neighboring country with a huge demand for drugs, and the U.S. government still does not have very feasible measures to control the consumption of drugs. Therefore, we see that all the drugs come through Mexico as a main channel to go into the U.S. market. Therefore, Mexico is facing paramount pressure, and we have the drug laws here. And in the US, it is easy to get access to guns. And Mexico does not support guns, and the drug laws in Mexico can have access to guns from the US. Just as mentioned by Mr. Zhou, when we discuss Mexico, it is inevitable we talk about the neighbor of Mexico, the US, the most powerful country around the world. And later on, we will also add some details. And for all of you who watch our program, I want to introduce once more. For this program, it is the live broadcast from the Mexico City, and the local time is past 9 p.m. And for the local time of Beijing, it is like 10 o'clock a.m. And for the current broadcast, it is focusing on the 2018 election as well as the violent events during the election, and we want to also explore the deeper meaning of such kind of violence. And through such a broadcast, we can also offer a glimpse of the real Mexico City. And we will go along this road of reform to introduce the security instruments on this road. Maybe it is very interesting, and for this instrument you may have a better understanding. And we see that the Mexico police have organized the Chinese people to learn how to use such instruments. And previous years we have invited the officials from the Mexico police to teach us how to prevent the violence or how to use the facilities. Therefore, we see that the police have talked about such an alarm button, and this alarm button is very important, installed all around this country. And about 20,000 of such alarms are installed around this country along the roads. It is very convenient. In case of an emergency, you can press on the button on the alarm, and the police will get to you within 5 minutes. And you can see that. So this is a sign. 066, it is the telephone number. You can call this number or press the button. And if you press the button, the police will receive a notice, and the policeman nearby will be notified to get to you within 5 minutes. Therefore, it is also a measure to step up the security in the cities and in the country. And for today, we will not press button to issue false alarm, but after you press button, I want to introduce to you the police will come. And we'll talk about the news on the internet. We see that if you press the button, the camera on the pole will collect the data and collect the image concerning the people who press on the button. And there are some videos on the internet showing such kind of arrangement. The victim of robbery may find the alarm nearby, press on the button, and there may be the on-the-spot dialogue between the people and the police station. And if you press on the button, you can tell what the situation is to the policeman. And the camera on the pole may take the image around for the atmosphere, for the environment. It is also similar to what we have in China. And with the image, we can track down the suspects and we can arrest the criminals. And today we want to introduce this facility because in the past there have not been such facilities. the security has been deteriorating, and every government has been trying to solve this issue to improve social security. And we know that the in the Calderon government, he has been working very hard to improve the social security. Therefore, we know that he used army to crack down upon drug lords. After 6 years, people do not have a high comment on him because the crackdown has not been efficient. So what are the reasons? We see that there are a lot of analysis, and from my perspective, I think that the drugs have always been an issue, and in Latin America, drug laws are on the rise. In the past, Colombia has been suffering from this drug issue, and the US helped Colombia to crack down on the drug laws. And all the drug dealers escape from Colombia and get into Mexico. Therefore, Mexico has been facing this mounting pressure. Therefore, for Mexico, there have been about 5 or 6 groups or cartels for drug dealing. And these drug cartels have been the major reason for the deteriorating security environment. And for the deteriorating security has also damaged the national image of this country. Just like mentioned, the audience or the netizens in China may know Mexico to a large extent through the drug dealers, drug cartels, and this drug issue has damaged the national image of this country, may leave the impression that this country is all about drug dealers. I have been in Mexico for several years. I have rather a good impression for this country. And for this country, it is beautiful. Just a few hours ago, the journalist station in Mexico has been contacting the CGTN in China, and we talk about a lot of the songs, lyrics about this country. We talk about Mexico as a dear and beautiful country, and for the Chinese people who live here, we can feel the passion, the kindness of the local people. And the local people love their country. It is just like what we mentioned just now. And today we have another event. All the people are watching the contest between Mexico and Brazil. And unfortunately, Mexico lose to Brazil. But even so, we can see a lot of Mexico people, they are still celebrating. They are celebrating despite of winning or losing. Therefore, we can see this kind of buoyant spirit of this country. And there may be a survey talking about Mexico as the happiest country around the world. Just like introduced by Mr. Zhou, we see that for the drug issue is a very complex issue, and I want to introduce the basic facts. For the drug cartels, they have close contact with parties or politicians. It is an open secret. And for even a foreigner living in Mexico, we know this. The newspapers, the media, they talk about this issue. Why we see that for this 2018 election, we have so many violence, so many assassinations and murderers. And behind these, we can see the in-depth meaning. And I have seen a report today, a commentator says that in any country, any politician should not pay the toll of their life due to his or her political belief or opinion. But in Mexico, it is the case. The people die. And for this election, about 132 people died, among which a large number are nominees of certain parties. And we can see that drug dealers, drug cartels are behind these murders. And some analysts say it is the very precise taking out of the politicians they do not favor, the drug dealer do not favor. We see that in the US, Trump does not have a very friendly policy toward Mexico. And now in Mexico, we have a leftist party coming into power. And this kind of political situation may threaten the existing interest for the drug cartels. And these drug dealers, they may worry and they want to make preparations to rule out the politicians who they do not favor. And these assassinated politicians may belong to a different party or a not so good party in the eyes of drug dealers. And this kind of situation is very rare even around the world. And today, the local time is 9:18 p.m. And we can see a lot of passengers, pedestrians on the streets. And even before the program, we have the traffic jam period as people are going home after work. And the roads are busy. If we catch the traffic jam, it is hard to imagine that before or behind such a peaceful scene, we can see the underlying cruelty. I want to add something. And in Mexico, we see that the violence is very severe. But in my own experience, we say that violence concentrates in about 5 to 6 states, and for the remaining 20 states, violence has not been that serious an issue. In Mexico City, the security is rather good. As it is a capital, we have police force and other governance. And in the neighboring states near the US, the security is deteriorating. It is related to drug dealing. And we can see that the politicians are murdered or even assassinated. These kind of events concentrate in certain cities, not in the level of states. The assassination concentrate on the candidates for the mayor level posts, not state level posts. And in Mexico, the drug dealers, they contact mainly on the local level. And we have been receiving the questions from the netizens. We see that for politicians have been murdered or killed. Does this kind of murder happen in bright daylight? It is true. In some region, the issue exists, but the region are not so widespread. The politician may first receive letters of threat. saying that if you don't change your position, you may face a risk of your life within months or within half a year. If you don't change, you may face the life risk. And the bloodiest event we have been seeing is that for a politician who is taking a selfie with his fans and a gun was shot, this kind of cruelty and extreme event does happen. It is a severe issue. And for this example, you may know that we talk about on the 8th of June. It is a nominee, Fernando Peron, from PRI, who has been giving a speech on cracking down upon crime. And outside the speech site, he was taking photos with the listeners, and there was a person who held a gun and shot at his head, and this nominee was shot dead on the spot. And we have been covering this event, and the image was so bloody, and it is a pre-planned gunshot. The gunslinger hid around the site and take the opportunity that the candidate was taking photos with the fans and supporters, and the gunslinger takes this chance to shoot dead the candidate. And for such a cruel event to happen in bright daylight, it is not kind of covert action. It is an outcry of violence. It is so emotional or sensational to the people. And for the Mexican people, they feel the insecurity, especially for the remote area. And certain states neighboring the US, security is really deteriorating. And the local people, they feel the insecure environment, and how to tackle this issue, how to improve on the social security, what are the measures to take. It is just like mentioned. We have elected a lefted political leader, and in his first speech, Mr. Obrador, he has been mentioning about how to improve the social security. The president-elect has his own mind. He will be focusing on this issue, and he will be discussing with his security guy to find the experts, to even engage the United Nations Human Rights Commission to discuss how Mexico can improve on the social security. His mind goes like this. He will not only use violence against violence, he will use his heart. He will have a national reconciliation with all the political parties or political groups. We will wait and try to see what has been the measures. Just as mentioned, the president-elect, Obrador, we may add some more information. Some audience may lack the knowledge of this newly elected leftist leader. The president-elect has been serving as a mayor of the Mexico City. It has been the third time for him to run for president. In 2006 and 2012, he lost. And this is the third time for him to run and to win. And we go forward. You can see from the camera that we see less and less people on the streets. And we go about 10 or 20 meters forward. There is a police station. And you can see how the police station in Mexico look like. The restaurants are high level with the glass as well as all the decorations. And in Mexico, we see that certain areas in the Mexico City, in the city of Mexico, are seen as insecure. And for any newcomers, they are suggested to avoid such area. And we see that recently we hear a lot of these kind of suggestions, because for Chinese, they open business in downtown Mexico. They need to deal with various kinds of situations or deal with people from all walks of life. So the Chinese business holders, they are very concerned. They pay close attention to the policy change after the new president. We missed the road. It is not to the direction of the police station, so we will go back and try to see the police station. And we keep on the street. For Obrador to have been running for a third time, he is a veteran in the politics. He seemed like an old man. He was born in 1953 and he's now in his 60s. He is a veteran politician. He's now elected as the president, and his winning speech has been delivered to about tens of thousands of crowds. And in his speech, he has mentioned the policy proposals for the new government. And from the speech of the Obrador, he has been running for a third time and he has won this time. And his election has drawn the close attention of the Mexico and the international community. It is for the first time in 19 years for a leftist candidate to win the election. And for Latin America, we have the left and right taking rotating terms. In Latin America, we talk about the leftist or rightist movement, balance and rotate. But in Mexico, we do not have such a rotating leftist or rightist president. We have always been serving under the right-wing politician, but Obrador is the first leftist candidate to win, and it is like a new era for Mexico. And in this new era, what we expect most is better social security. People should live in a peaceful and secure environment for better economic development. And it is also an ideal for the Mexico people. For the Obrador, he has been making certain proposals using new approaches to govern. And in terms of security, he has his new minds and approaches. He promised that he will go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he will focus on security directly. Therefore, we can see he has great resolution and strength on this issue. And in this case, we want to see whether there will be a wonderful result on the security of Mexico. So it is the common wish of the Chinese or other people coming from the world to Mexico and the local people. We are going forward and we talk about security. And for this election, we have a lot of violence. I want to discuss one detail. For yesterday, we talked about the reports of the election. It is curious why Obrador did not take a bulletproof vehicle. He is taking a white Jetta. He favored to sit next to the driver. So we see that the vehicle is not bulletproof, just a normal car. And after winning the speech from the election headquarters, Obrador came from the headquarters to the restaurant to deliver the speech. He even turned down the window to shake hands with the common people. Maybe this is even vulnerable to the gunshots or other events. So is this a gesture for him to get close to the people, or is this because he's just bold? So this issue is paid close attention to for Obrador. He has this image of getting close to people. He's saying that he does not need a safeguard corps because he believes people support him. So he has this foundation to say so. And we can see, according to the exit poll, he has been supported by 53% of the people. And this kind of support rate is very rare in Mexico or even in Latin America. We see that the mid and lower level people, the common people support him. He believes in this, and he has confidence in the support of the people, of the grassroots. And he says that he would not be assassinated because he has the support of these people. And in his governance, he is talking about using his heart, not using violence against violence. And this kind of proposal is totally different from his predecessors. And what to do or how to achieve this, it is very difficult. So in this image, we can see the patrolling vehicle of the Mexico Federal Police. It is a main kind of patrolling vehicle on the streets of Mexico. It is a large pickup. We have 4 to 5 policemen on the pickup on the vehicle. It is patrolling. And there is another kind. We have the cars with the decoration of the police sign. The signal or symbol for the Ministry of Public Security and the Federal Police. So there are two kinds of vehicles. One kind is a pickup for the patrolling vehicle, and the other is a car with a symbol of the Ministry of Public Security. So what are the information delivered by the president-elect? The president still has 6 months to inaugurate, to swear in as president. And in the transition time, we need to focus on this. And in other reports of CCTV, we see that after midnight of last year, they feel that it has been an end to the killing of 130 plus politicians killed. So they wonder whether the current government will pursue these cases, will investigate these cases. And after the new government swear in, will the new government pursue these cases? It is doubtful. Therefore, we have been researching and investigating. So these politicians, they are killed. Are these cases just numbers on papers? 133, 132, and 38. Maybe there will be no further investigation. So just to break it in, we see the police and the guns. And he has been wearing the normal suit for the federal police. And for this time, we have the right way. And you can see the lights of blue and red. And so this is the police station for Mexico City. And there is a side alley. And you can see the gathering and exercise of a lot of policemen. So this is another type of the police cars. It is very normal. And you can see CDMX. It is the short spelling for the Mexico City. And you can see all the signs on the cars. SSP is the shortcut for the Ministry of Public Security of Mexico. And you can see there are a lot of cars parking here. And you can see the exterior of the police station. So they are the policemen for Mexico City. The city police are responsible for the actually the security, the local security. And for Mexico, we have also the federal police. Federal police will coordinate the national security. And we see the alarm button. This process is run by the federal police, the alarm system. So the federal police coordinate the security through the alarm system for all the cities around the country. And on the street, we can see the dogs and pedestrians. So if we can see the pedestrian to walk her dog, maybe it is a good sign for the security. In other cities, at 9 or 10 p.m., many people will avoid to go outside. But in Mexico City, we can see the pedestrian walking her dog. So it shows the security in this city is rather good. So from my own experience, we see that for Mexico City and even other cities, the security overall is rather good. It is not extremely dangerous. We have been talking about the police station of Mexico. The local time is 9:40 p.m. We see the lady walking her dog. It shows the security is rather good. And for the Mexico City, a lot of areas are considered safe. Today, we focus on the violent events. These are real events. And we will want to explore the in-depth reasons, the geopolitical, the geography, as it is very near to the US with about 3,000 borderline, 3,000 kilometers of borders. So it is a geography which can breed drug dealing. We see that there are other reasons such as the unemployment or the education for youngsters. Okay, maybe even we have the chance we can interview some of the passengers. So now we see the Mexico local people. We may interview them.
creo que el tema pues es un poquito bastante amplio, pero la inseguridad se debe a muchos factores, ¿no? La economía que está un poco débil en el país, no toda la gente cuenta con recursos suficientes para llevar una vida digna o acorde, ¿no? Para poder estar estables. Y yo creo que a veces eso lleva a las familias, desgraciadamente a las personas, a los compañeros, ¿no? A hacer actos ilícitos y demerita esa parte mexicana, ¿no? Pero pues podríamos decir que no todo es así, no todo es mala fe.
Gracias. Muchas gracias. 然后现在就是刚才那个，刚才就是我们随便抓了一个街采啊，就是抓这个。
So just now we interviewed some local people. He was wearing the suit for the national football team. So in recent election, I asked about the security during the election. What is his opinion? He answered in very simple terms. He said that these events are related to the not so good economic situation. If there are no economic opportunities, ordinary person may be forced to slip into crime. The overall economy is critical. We have one related report, and for the how one or certain Mexico young people lose a chance to go to school, and he is picked by a gun, and one step after another he slip into crime and become a criminal. These young people does not have much more choice. He need to earn his life. And there are economic reasons behind such a process. So it is the reason for the high crime rate. The local people has also shared about this. From Mexico, the wealth gap is rather very high. About 40 or 50% live in poverty. We say it is about 60 million people living in poverty. The disparity in wealth with a high ratio of people living in poverty, this definitely lead to a lot of problems, and social security one of them. And the local people has also mentioned that if we do not have income, if we do not have decent income, under such circumstances, it may lead to another direction, fall into crime or become criminals. A lot of Mexico people try to go to the U.S. Why? Because they have to earn a living in the U.S. And as long as the economy develops, the Mexican people can stay in his own country instead of trying to go to the U.S. Just now, we talked a lot about the Mexico life. He has been living for 20 years in Mexico. And now we can see the two policemen at the doorstep. So this is the police station for this district. They can take a lot of business, answering the calls, and deal with people's needs. And for Mexico, even before the World Cup, in this district, at every corner of the street, we see one policeman. Just at this period, we can see such a lot of policemen. I tried to interview a policeman, but no one want to accept such interview. But I chat with them. In this district, in this block, about 40 policemen are added to this block. So now we come into a side alley. It is a one-way route. And we have the two lane and the parking lanes. And in the older towns of Mexico, we can see the older blocks look just like this in Mexico. And these kind of blocks are very common in Mexico. If you live in Mexico, it is very convenient. The price level is not so high. And people feel that it is comfortable to live in this country without so much pressure. But for one thing, you cannot avoid security. If we say at night, if you come from China, okay, the Chinese people may feel that it would be wonderful if we can have a walk on the roads of Mexico. That would be wonderful, but to achieve such a goal, it takes time. Mr. Zhou has been living in this country for a lot of years. He has a lot of experience, and for this block, we see a lot of Asian faces, Chinese, Korean. So if we can walk freely, have a walk on the streets, it is a wish for a lot of Chinese people. So you can see the patrolling police. It is just like what we have mentioned. A lot of policemen are added to the blocks to patrol. So you can see there are fewer cars, and I have been living in this country for certain years. I have some experience and feeling. I have also been studying in Mexico. When I was studying in Mexico a few years ago, people don't even shut the door when they are sleeping at night. But now, according to the reports, even in Cancun, the very famous city, the security deteriorate, with even drug dealers taking the show. And we see that in Mexico, in the northern states neighboring the US, and in the southern states neighboring the Central or Southern American countries, and in the states nearing the Mexico Bay, these areas are not secure. So we can see it is a rather deteriorating security. After listening to the speech of the new president, I feel that Obrador has new approach. He first wants a reconciliation around this nation. We see for Mexico, it adopts democracy. Democracy has brought about benefits as well as disadvantages. The party interests even supersede national interest. Different parties cannot reconcile. And this kind of situation is not very beneficial to pool the effort of all the people to build this country. The national reconciliation should incorporate the following points. all the parties should sit together to discuss what we can do for this country. And second, what we can do to tackle and crack down on the drug cartels. And drug cartels have been a deep-rooted issue in this country. If you crack down on one drug lord, even more may emerge because we have the expansion of such organizations. If you use violence against violence, it is no way out. Therefore, we need to find a new way different from what we have been doing for the past decades. And what is a new way? It requires the wisdom of the new president and his cabinet. And from my perspective, we see that we have been reporting on the Mexico election. We have been listening to the Mexico people. Many people say that I don't care who wins the election, I just want to have a better life. I just want the new president to bring us a better life, a secure life. We see that the Mexico people, they love their country. They have the deep affection. Many local people, they have the self-esteem as Mexican people. So to cut in, we see the patrolling vehicle from the police station to the policeman on the block and the patrolling vehicle. So we can see there are a lot of police force. And for this block, it is more secure. It is securer. We have so much police force, but for other area, it may be not quite safe. So if you go to Mexico for a tour, you may be impressed by so much police force on the streets. Because Mexico City is the capital, we have so many policemen. But if you go to remote area, remote states, police force is limited. Therefore, in Mexico nowadays, we have certain problem. Certain place lack the police force to improve on the security. So yesterday, Alfredo has mentioned improving security, but he will need a lot of money to tackle this issue. And we need to wait and try to see what he can do to effectively solve this issue, to improve on the security of this country. And we see that in the morning, when my mother saw the report, my mother called me. She even asked me to come back to China because she was worried. So this kind of events and reports may have the influence on the Chinese people, but we can see that for Mexico, it does have the tourist resources with beautiful sceneries. If this kind of insecurity hamper this kind of tour experience, it is very regretful. So he lived in Mexico for less than 3 weeks. He is a tourist. So he may live here, I may live here. May I ask, for the Mexico election, so what do you feel about security? I have been experiencing certain events, the World Cup and the Mexico football team, win and lose, they stop losing to Brazil. I just live around the block with a lot of police force. It is secure. I feel secure. A lot of armed policemen or the migration police force, they may check your documents. So I live in other place in Mexico, it is like San Diego, but for Mexico City, it is a capital. And the economy as well as the security is the best even in the Latin American countries. I may buy an apartment here, and the apartments and real estate is really good. Do you understand, or do you hear something about the assassinations or the murders for politicians? So we live in Latin America. So it is not so unique. Even in the US, they have the gunshots. Just like mentioned, if ordinary people have fears when they go to watch movies, the social security is in question. So we have been interviewing one Chinese people. He has been introducing about the beautiful city, the Mexico City. And we may draw some conclusion. The broadcast for nearly 1 hour, we have been showing the main streets, the alleys, as well as the police station, the alarm button. And we have a glimpse of Mexico City at night. So I want to offer more information for all of you concerning the Mexico as a country. And we will have further coverage for the 2018 Mexico election. And we will offer you follow-up reports concerning certain events subsequent to the election. Now, maybe it is time for us to end such a broadcast, and we will invite Mr. Zhou to share with you the ending remarks. So we use such a short time to exchange with you, and I want to share with you what we feel in living in Mexico. I have been living in this country for 24 years. I want to share with you my experience, especially concerning security, so you may have a better understanding for Mexico as well as Latin America. Mexico as a country is very large. Security is an issue here, but just like mentioned by the Chinese person we have interviewed, Mexico City has rather good security, and Mexico as a country has very rich tourist resources. So maybe if you have the chance, you can go to Mexico to have a tour. So I will add something. We talk about the security and Mexico. What I feel is that it is a complex issue. We know Mexico through reports. We talk about the violent events. We may feel the fear and we may feel the surprise, but from my own experience, we see that for Mexico country is a good country, and we want to use this platform to bring you a new perspective to understand Mexico behind these events. And we need to take a more objective perspective to understand this country. And I wish you have a good day. And that is the end of today's broadcast. Thank you for watching. See you next time.